Good morning, fellow. It's Monday. Today's video is going to be more of a response to your video last week than anything else. So, first of all, my favorite book of the Bible, I am inclined to say something like Psalms first because that's where one of my favorite passages comes from. I think it's Psalm 136. Then I was kind of thinking more about it, and I would say maybe something like Romans or Hebrews or one of the Pauline epistles because I really enjoy those. Maybe Philippians, which is where Paul is writing one of his most joyful and encouraging letters from prison right before he dies. Second, addressing what you talked about with the Brock Turner case. So even in the time between whenever you made your last video and whenever I'm making this video now, we've had another tragedy that's been in the news, which is the shooting that happened in Orlando. I'm not going to go into that a ton today because I actually just found out about that this morning. Just something to keep in mind and keep in prayer for the victims and the families of the victims that were shot. So, moving on to responding to your questions about the Brock Turner Stanford rape case. You sent me the letter that the victim wrote, and it was heartbreaking. It made me very angry, it made me sick, it made me want to cry, but it also gave me hope at the end. And so your first question was really difficult about my perspective on how we as Christians are supposed to respond to someone like this who is not showing remorse and is just nonchalantly ruining lives, basically. And I think, first of all, we have to look at Christ's example, which is that while we were still sinners and while we weren't repentant, Christ still died for us, which is amazing whenever we think of it from the perspective of, wow, he forgave me, but it's so hard whenever it's, wow, he forgave them, even though they didn't ask for it or weren't sorry. I know personally that whenever I've been wronged and someone is not sorry about it, I've been very inclined to be angry as a defense mechanism. But I've learned that while anger burns hot and bright for a very short amount of time, it's not very good for fueling anything. And I think anger can move us to action, but it's not a good thing to dwell on because it doesn't get us anywhere and it can make us bitter. I think that ultimately we need to remember that Christ forgave these people, but we're still on this earth trying to make it as much like Christ's kingdom as we can while it's very broken. So I think we need to do whatever we can to get people like this to have the punishment that they deserve. Because, I mean, that's why God set up a justice system whenever he was, leading the Israelites through the desert. He knew that we would need a justice system and would need punishments and that kind of thing to prevent this kind of thing from happening. So I think we definitely need to use our voices and use our influence in the circles that we have to speak out against this. But I also think we need to remember that there is forgiveness and there is redemption, and we can't just stay angry or villainize people permanently. Second, you had a question about how do we respond from pain and is escapism okay? So first of all, I think we need to think about what pain is and what function it serves in this world. So the reason why we have pain is because we live in a broken world that's fallen, and we wouldn't have pain if we didn't have that brokenness. But I think pain is an indicator of brokenness. Like if you break your leg, then you're in pain. And if you broke your leg and it didn't hurt, you may be very inclined to not go get it checked out, even though there's blood and there's maybe, you can't function. Pain motivates us to rise up to action. Pain that we feel through this sympathy for the victims is something that motivates us to action and motivates us to speak out and have an outcry. And pain is what motivates change. And whenever we move into a perfect world, we won't have that pain because there won't be anything wrong. But right now, it's something that motivates us to speak out. As far as escaping pain, I think that as humans, we can emotionally only handle so much. I think it's okay to get away and take a break for a moment. I think that we can see from Jesus' example, he took time away from healing the sick and casting out demons and preaching to be alone. And I'm not saying that he wasn't thinking about what was going on in the world at that time while he was talking with his Father, but he did take time to just, as a human, pause and breathe. And I think it's okay for us to do that as long as we don't make it our lives. that's my thoughts on this. As we're getting older, I'm realizing that we know less and less, and there's more and more room for us to grow. So I'm sure that as time goes on, we'll hopefully understand these kind of things better and have more opportunities to respond in our own lives. But this vlog is kind of a snapshot of our freshman, sophomore years of college and the summer in between. So that's all I have to say. Val, have a good week. Don't forget to be awesome, and I will see you soon.